like a lot of people saying that someone who seems so nice is not nice at all.
She doesn't seem nice, but that people have a very poor judge of character. She doesn't seem nice. It seems forced. People that are like that all the time, she doesn't seem nice. It's very forced. And whatever, you're allowed to right? You're allowed to be nasty to people. You're accomplished. You're a comedian. You did the whole thing.
There is an attempted comeback by somebody who did not cross one of those fateful lines of the misstepping on their sacred cows of gender or race or sexuality.
Yeah.
But she was said to be a nasty biatch, and that's Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
So her show got canceled after she had this testy exchange with Dakota Johnson, where something happened where Dakota said, "Oh, I had this birthday party," and Ellen said, "Well, why didn't you invite me? You didn't invite me." And she said, like, "No, I did invite you, Ellen. That's not what happened." And Ellen had blown her off.
Yeah.
And then
Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly took a close look at Ellen DeGeneres' public image, and they didn't hold anything back. With Joe's signature humor and Megyn's sharp analysis, they questioned the reputation that helped turn Ellen into one of the biggest names in daytime television. From stories about what allegedly happened behind the scenes to criticism of her carefully managed public persona, they examined the image millions of viewers had come to know. This wasn't just another celebrity conversation. It was a deeper discussion about the gap between public perception and reality, and it quickly became one of the most talked about conversations surrounding Ellen's legacy.
Situation.
Yeah.
You know, people found out that Ellen was mean, and all these people came out and said, Ellen's actually a fucking bitch. And everybody, wow,
Yeah.
I can't believe it. And she lost everything. She fell apart, disappeared, because people found out that this character that she was portraying in a half an hour on a television
it led to article after article of people being like, Ellen is a nasty person. And all these staffers started to come out, not for nothing, but I know a guy, I know him very well, whose sister worked for her, who said, you were not allowed to make eye contact with Ellen in the halls. If you saw her, this is not a nice person. So she eventually got canceled, but now...
If you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Now, Joe Rogan seemed completely focused on this topic. You could almost picture him leaning back in his chair with a skeptical expression, listening to Ellen DeGeneres being described as America's sweetheart while wondering how much of that image was actually genuine. From the way he spoke, it was clear he had his doubts. This is someone who has spent years interviewing UFC champions, scientists, comedians, and many controversial figures. He's explored everything from unusual theories to serious debates, but this time his attention was on one of television's most recognizable personalities, and he had plenty to say about the image that made Ellen a household name.
But I had already known that, because I had a buddy who worked for her. Like, he was like, she's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Her house got broken into while she was at home. My buddy Greg, who was one of the writers, was like, she's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I didn't know enough to be surprised.
You're allowed to be a bitch. What you're not allowed to do, if an intern's late, they have a hood on. She's got dogs and hoods.
Joe didn't jump in with harsh criticism right away. Instead, he approached the topic the way an experienced fighter studies an opponent before making a move, carefully, patiently, and with a sharp eye for detail. To him, Ellen seemed like an interesting contradiction. On one hand, she built an incredibly successful brand based on kindness, dancing, and making people feel good. On the other hand, stories from behind the scenes painted a very different picture, raising questions about what really happened when the cameras stopped rolling. With his usual sense of humor, Joe joked that Ellen's studio sounded a little like Disneyland, except everyone seemed too stressed to enjoy the experience. He described walking onto the set, being welcomed by a huge television smile, and then immediately feeling the pressure of an environment where everyone was trying not to make a mistake. The way he described it, the atmosphere seemed strangely unpredictable. One moment it was a cheerful daytime talk show, and the next it felt like there were unwritten rules no one had explained. That contrast was exactly what caught his attention and fueled the conversation.
So her show got canceled after she had this testy exchange with Dakota Johnson, where something happened where Dakota said, "Oh, I had this birthday party," and Ellen said, "Well, why didn't you invite me? You didn't invite me." And she said, like, "No, I did invite you, Ellen. That's not what happened." And Ellen had blown her off, and then tried to play the victim on the set with her. Anyway, it led to article.
What Joe found difficult to understand was the contrast between Ellen's cheerful public image and the stories that allegedly came from behind the scenes. To him, it simply didn't make sense. How could someone known for promoting kindness and positivity be connected to so many accounts describing a very different workplace environment? Using his trademark humor, Joe joked that some staff members probably weren't hoping for promotions or raises, they were just hoping for a normal day at work. He painted a picture of a workplace where the public message and the private reality seemed completely different. One of his funniest observations was that kindness sometimes appeared to be part of the brand rather than part of the workplace culture. In his view, the audience received the warm and uplifting version, while employees were left dealing with a much less cheerful reality after the cameras stopped rolling.
Hey, Ellen DeGeneres, I hope you never find employment again.
Turns out Shorty is a demon. Somebody stop this woman before it's too late.
So former employees actually said that Ellen's "Be Kind" mantra, it was all...
Joe then shifted his attention to what he jokingly called the cult of the couch, referring to Ellen's signature interview style. In his opinion, guests never seemed completely relaxed. One moment they were sharing an emotional story, and the next they were caught in a surprise prank they never expected. With his usual humor, Joe joked that Ellen wasn't just hosting a talk show, she was running a social experiment in front of a live audience. He imagined guests constantly staying alert, never knowing when a simple conversation might suddenly turn into an unexpected spectacle. Rogan argued that the gap between Ellen's public image and the stories that surfaced behind the scenes was what made the entire situation so fascinating. To him, watching that carefully built brand begin to unravel felt both surprising and inevitable. With a grin, he joked that if Ellen ever appeared on his podcast, his first question would be simple: at what point did the public version of Ellen become a character? That comment perfectly summed up his view of the controversy.
Because it's okay. Because it is okay.
Ellen appeared on the cover of Time, where she actually came out as an openly gay woman, and it was incredibly courageous back then, even though she did get some support. Unfortunately, during that time, America was not ready to watch an openly gay woman on a sitcom. The ratings declined in 1998. It was eventually canceled.
I was not told that it was canceled. I was told through an assistant who read it in the trades.
Just when it seemed Joe had finished making his point, he shifted to one of Ellen's most recognizable trademarks, her surprise pranks. With a laugh, he joked that only Ellen could convince millions of people that scaring unsuspecting guests was a form of entertainment. He painted a humorous picture of a workplace built around maintaining appearances, where everyone was expected to stay cheerful no matter what was happening behind the scenes. In Joe's opinion, Ellen had mastered the art of creating a public image that audiences loved, even while questions continued to surface about what life was really like off camera. Then he made his strongest point. Joe argued that the backlash wasn't unexpected. It was the result of a growing disconnect between image and reality. No public persona, no matter how polished, can avoid scrutiny forever. And just as Joe finished making his case, another voice entered the conversation. Megyn Kelly stepped in with her own perspective, ready to examine the same story from a different angle, and she came fully prepared.
In a middle-class family, she went to school at the University of New Orleans. She was only there for a semester, and then she started working in these nightclubs, establishing herself as a stand-up comic. She's making a living waiting tables, and she gets a big break by being named the funniest comic in America on Showtime.
For a while, you were the funniest person on the planet?
In America, not the planet.
Megyn Kelly approached the topic very differently from Joe Rogan. While Joe relied on humor, Meghan focused on what she believed was the gap between Ellen's public image and the criticism surrounding her. She argued that Ellen's brand was one of the most carefully crafted in television, built around kindness, generosity, and positivity. While recognizing Ellen's influence and accomplishments, Meghan questioned whether the image audiences saw always reflected what happened behind the scenes. According to Meghan, many of the show's emotional moments, giveaways, and feel-good stories appeared highly polished and carefully presented. She suggested that protecting the brand was just as important as delivering the message. In her opinion, the biggest issue wasn't what viewers saw on camera. It was the growing belief that the public image and the behind-the-scenes stories didn't always match.
Hollywood, as she speaks from this grandiose stage on Netflix. Hello, you haven't been canceled.
If you were also gay.
Why was it necessary for you to come out, tell the public? Why was it necessary for the character to do so?
Because it's okay. Because it is okay.
Ellen.
Then Meghan turned her attention to what she believed was the biggest issue, the disconnect between Ellen's public message and the criticism that emerged behind the scenes. She argued that while Ellen built her brand around kindness and supporting others, former employees and industry insiders described a much more complicated reality. In Meghan's opinion, protecting the public image often seemed to take priority over addressing the concerns being raised. She also questioned whether the show's carefully polished presentation left enough room for genuine authenticity. According to Meghan, there appeared to be two versions of the Ellen brand, one that audiences saw every day and another that existed behind closed doors. Eventually, she said, those two worlds collided, and once the public image began to crack, many viewers started seeing the brand in a completely different light.